dedicated to strengthening your skills as a guitar player. We're not the only podcast out there doing it. Probably like to think we're one of the better ones.
Yeah, I don't know. Are we?
No,
I mean, rather, are there other podcasts doing what we're doing? I don't think there are.
I don't know.
Not anymore, anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take that,
guys.
Probably, guys. No.
Yeah. Let's be honest.
I'm gonna be honest. Okay. So welcome. I'm Dylan Murphy, and with me, as always, is my friend John Gillen.
That's me.
John, how are you?
I'm doing well, and you, sir?
Doing quite well now.
Week on. Done with the masters. Not done, but done with the coursework.
Well, yeah, it's etched its way onto my heart, so it's never really gone.
It has burned itself into my soul.
We're all mad here. So we're going to be talking, as always, about guitars, different uses, how we can improve ourselves as players. But first,
a little self-help for the guitar world.
Exactly, it's what we all need. Self-help for our mental health with guitars. So, breaking on from last week, we are bringing back our lick of the week.
Yes,
second week running.
Exactly. So I've got something this week.
Okay.
All right.
I'm ready.
Okay.
So you're not going to tell me what it is.
Okay. No, not at all.
Hot dog. John Gillen. Okay.
That was one of mine. Yeah.
Liar. So I'm gonna. Let's not make this a guessing game every week, but it sounds like kind of one of John Five's slower things, but going back to his influences, is it Danny Gatton?
That's not a bad guess. It would be sort of the next generation Danny Gatton.
Brad Paisley.
Boom. Well done, my friend.
Yeah.
Fist bump to that. Boom.
Very good. So. That's not how our fists sound, by the way. I made that sound with my mouth.
Where's our soundboard?
What?
Still. This is episode 9, man.
Episode 9. Good God.
Yeah.
So, what song is that? Why do you like it? Tell me all about it.
Okay. So, that's actually from his first album, and the song is called Nervous Breakdown. And you can see why.
Yeah. Good God.
Yeah, absolutely mental. And I was working in a record store when this thing came out, and it blew my mind. I was like, oh, sweet mother of Mary, what is that sound? And yeah, so ever since then, it's just...
Is it
it's
an
still
instrumental song, or is it just...
Yeah, that one's actually instrumental. But the first track on that, too, Me Neither, just has this mind-blowing chicken picking solo. Like, he's fantastic.
He's unreal.
And nice guy, too. Had the opportunity to meet him a couple of times.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Was he wearing a cowboy hat?
Of course. He's always wearing a cowboy hat.
Yeah, I know.
Dude, it's Nashville.
There we go.
Yeah.
Excellent choice, John. Excellent choice. So we're on, as always, to Pedal Week. Now, last Pedal Talk. Well,
Pedal Week?
Pedal Week.
The week of
Every
pedals.
week is Pedal Week. Usually we talk about kind of different effects, but this week we're continuing on from last week, where we talked about or gave an introduction to delay.
And there's, like we said, there's loads to talk about. We could probably do like 4 episodes.
Absolutely.
5, I don't know.
That's not
delay. Yeah.
Let's
eventually it kind of
keep it streamlined. Episode 6 on delay. So last week we gave a bit of a brief intro.
Right. We talked about tape, analog, and digital delays,
and the differences between them.
Right.
But now we're going to talk about how to use it.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a couple of different, most of them will have these settings, and it's kind of easy to pick up sort of what they do. But you have sort of your basic echo, which, if you think of slapping your hands or clapping your hands, I guess that's what they call it, isn't it? Yeah, they call it clapping these days.
Not slapping your hands. That's something a bit different.
But yeah, if you kind of think about that, or yelling your name into a cave or a canyon, we've had this discussion about canyons in the past.
Yeah.
And if you would like to go find that, go listen to our back episodes, and that sort of thing, where it just kind of it calls back to you. But it's this sort of cavernous, expansive thing where it just kind of slowly fades.
Gotcha.
Fades.
Cool.
Versus the slap back, which is just boom, and it just kind of it hits you right back in the face.
The rockabilly sets
Yeah, exactly. So, which can be sort of confused with a reverb. That's kind of an easy one to mix up.
It's very, very close.
Yeah. The other one would be sort of ambience or ambiance, if you prefer.
John, I always prefer. Go on.
and you've got and something that just kind of helps to add more depth and space to your sound. Obviously, something like the Edge is going to use a lot of it just for something that's going to kind of double up the notes you're playing.
Yeah, fill in the space.
Yeah, he famously uses that dotted 8th note, 16th note kind of thing. Yeah, exactly. So loads to talk about there, but the other thing you can do is you can sort of use it in place of a reverb. You keep the mix pretty dry, just enough that it sort of fills a little bit of the room.
Okay.
And you keep the feedback time short. So the feedback time is essentially how long that it kind of continues and then plays back. You keep that short, and that helps to just kind of give more of like a reverb type sound. If that's really all you need, is something to boost it, maybe something you need for a solo or something.
Cool.
Like that.
Yeah.
So, few quick and dirty suggestions. There's
nice.
A lot more, obviously.
Yeah.
know.
And if you think of like masters of delay, we talked about the Edge. Any other people that are like maybe Dave Gilmour uses delay really, really well.
Yeah, but he's a pretty good example of someone who kind of stacks those delays and reverbs together to create some epic sounds. Particularly if you listen to another Brick in the Wall, or the Comfortably Numb solo.
Yeah.
Like that's a really classic example of just loads of space on a solo. Someone you turned me on to was So I Watch You From Afar. Both of those guitar players have like 4 delay pedals on their
the
boards.
Memory Man and the
And so definitely, I mean, that's a really good example of how to stack those delays. A lot of the shoegazer music, honestly, you want to look at Sigur Rós and how they fill out the space. Like a lot of that is going to be delays and reverbs, couple of delays stacked on each other, that sort of thing. So without going too in depth into it, there's a lot that you can do. And then when you start stacking them, like the possibilities are endless.
Stacks and stacks.
Stacks of delay. Yeah. And just goes on forever. I had a friend tell me that basically he said, his goal with his delay and reverb setup is just to make those notes just chime, hit those chimey notes up high and just have them ring out for all eternity.
I think the Edge said that if he could write a riff that was just one note, he would. And that kind of makes me hate him a little bit. But, I can see where he's coming from. But dear God, man.
Yeah.
You sound just lazy. I know he's gotten to this. Anyway.
Yeah.
Beyond the point. Cool. I always really liked the delay Nick Zinner from the Yeah Yeah Yeahs used. So because it's only him and a drummer and Karen O together, his use of delay is great. He'll loop and he'll just create this monstrous sound, and it's pretty much all just through delay effects. It's really, really nice.
That's cool.
Absolutely. Excellent. So this week, we had an interview last week, which was really, really cool, just to shake things up. But today we're actually doing a second part of an episode that we did a few weeks ago.
Right.
Getting out of that rut.
What do you do when you are just stuck? Everything you play feels the same and kind of lame, and you hate your playing and you hate your guitar.
Been there, John.
You hate your fingers. Yeah.
Staring down, threatening them with knives.
Damn you, fingers.
Stupid fingers.
Yeah. Thank you, Robot Devil.
So, John, for an advice for getting Guit in out of a rut, could you give us some personal examples of something that has helped you in the past?
Couple of things. Well, I'll start with one. I find playing with like some backing tracks. Maybe find something on YouTube. There's a bunch of them from your favorite guitar players. Take your pick. I'm sure you can find one.
So you mean for songs or for just like
in some cases. Chords? So a few years back, like Steve Vai released a bunch of his tracks without the leads on it. And so, for the real nerds out there, you learn every single note that Steve Vai plays and then you play over it. And then for your like lower nerds or your more creative nerds, you could just kind of improvise over it and say, okay, I know what he's doing.
I can do it better.
Didn't say that, my friend.
Nice try, Vi.
Yeah. I'll Ralph Macchio him.
There you go.
Yeah.
God, that's obscure.
I'm sure everybody that's listening to this podcast knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Crossroads, baby.
Yes, both our listeners must be thrilled.
And your mom.
And my mom. Cool, that's great. One thing kind of going on from that is from like listening and using your sound to whatever is I find that learning parts that aren't guitar parts.
Oh, that's a great thing.
That's one of the best pieces of advice
really
I've heard.
is.
We talked before about mimicking vocal lines
Yeah.
via 90s girl pop.
Yeah.
But I find that as well, if you can pick maybe a ska song or something where there's a really cool horn section, learn the horn section.
Right.
I mean, Stevie Wonder, I Wish has a really, really good horn section. One I learned recently was by the Jacksons, not the Jackson 5, because post Jackson 5 they became the Jacksons, and there was a song called Shake Your Body Down to the Ground. And just the horn part is just beautiful, and it gets you thinking about the shapes, the kind of the harmonic intervals differently. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
oh, I don't have to go from this note to this note the whole time. I can go from this note. So basically playing like a horn player.
Saxophone solos are great because saxophonists always make these like massive... Saxophonists. Saxophone. Thank you, Matt Groening. He's providing a lot of our material today. Yes. Anyway, so but the saxophones have these massive jumps. I can't even say it with a straight face.
Massive jumps.
Yeah, anyway, huge leaps. And so it's not something we would necessarily think about as guitar players. So I think that's spot on. That's a great one. Cool. One that I might suggest would be like go to a concert, any concert. It doesn't matter. Try to find some inspiration in something. If it's something you wouldn't normally go see, that's fine. But there's still something to learn and be like, hey, that was a cool chord progression, or that was maybe the vocal melody. Kind of tack on to what you're saying. If all you do is go see some white guy with a guitar, like Dylan Murphy.
Hello.
There might be a vocal line or something like that that's worth taking and figuring out, like, how did he do that, and could I play it on guitar?
Absolutely.
Or just seeing other people play, I think, is huge.
Yeah, just seeing how people do things and interact with the crowd and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I was interviewing Leo Moran from the Saw Doctors recently, and he told me that he doesn't go to gigs that much these days, but when he does, there's something he can take from every gig, which I think is really, really good.
That's good advice. Yeah,
playing is only half of it. You got to go out and see what other people are doing.
Absolutely,
which is a big thing. Seeing what other people are doing is basically is my next point. Essentially, find out. So take your favorite guitar players, so your Stevie Ray Vaughns or whatever, or who, and it's not just to listen to them. You got to listen to who they listened to.
Yeah, that's.
You gotta
really good advice.
Kind of trace it back. I discovered this guitar player named Junior Kimbrough by reading this article with interview with Dan Auerbach from Black Keys.
Okay.
And he's like, yeah, this guy is the guy who really turned me on to kind of blues guitar playing.
No kidding.
So I got his, greatest hits or whatever, and it's so good. It's so nice. It's just so laid back and bluesy.
Yeah.
And I find myself stealing more from him now.
Nice.
than I would from Dan Auerbach, or however you pronounce it.
Don't be afraid to buy a greatest hits album.
No, don't.
Yeah.
Right?
Like there's a bit of a stigma against it, but like, look, you're not going to be a true fan of everybody.
That's damn straight.
You pick the stuff that's the best for a reason.
Yeah, you can't go all Alan Partridge and say that your favorite Beatles album is the best of the Beatles. But you know,
fair enough.
But you're not allowed a greatest hits on your desert island discs. But sometimes it's necessary.
Yeah, I think especially when you're looking at influences of influences, because to sort of tack on to what you were saying there, for me, listening to John Petrucci early on, and he would say things about Al Di Meola, and I'd be, I don't know that much about Al Di Meola, so the first thing I did was go out and buy a greatest hits album. And then since then I've bought a lot more, but that was kind of the thing that sort of turned me on to Al Di Meola.
Absolutely. Because a lot of guitar playing, if you're buying your first album by a player, it's sometimes really hard to just pick one. So maybe a greatest hits is the best way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So now we're going to go on to our famous segment, what we've been working on.
Yes.
So John, what have you been working on?
Well, this week primarily I've been trying to get back into writing, because
what you writing?
This master's has taken our soul.
Yeah.
So something to kind of something that's creative and something that just kind of brings a little bit of life, but just kind of working on a couple of riffs, kind of figuring some things out. To be honest, there's sort of outgrowths of some exercises I was working on, and just I wanted to see, could I apply these in a different manner? Can I branch them out into something that is coherent in a different vocabulary, I guess. So one of them grew out of a Chris Letchford exercise on economy picking. Now his is melodic, and as most of his exercises are, and there's a context to it, but I wanted to see, could I change the strings? Could I put it in a different key? Could I kind of keep the same pattern but mix up the chords? And that's essentially kind of where that particular riff
Tasteful stealing.
Yeah, exactly. And you wouldn't recognize it as anything that came from that exercise, which I'm kind of proud of that a little bit. But
yeah, man.
I was kind of pressured into it too by our mutual friend Matthew O'Callaghan.
Yes. Shout out.
Yeah, exactly. Another accountability, but get
accountability buddy.
Yeah.
Get accountability buddy.
I can't say it. Yeah, but what he said.
Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, that's what I've been working on. And yourself?
Yeah, kind of something similar. I've been getting some new songs for a few of the bands that I've been working in, and basically just been given chords and basically coming up with riffs underneath them.
That's fun.
Yeah, on our the Stephen Sharp and the Broke Straight Boys, on the album that we released, there's a song called Tipperary Song.
What is that album, by the way?
It's called Shut Up Dylan.
Okay, and where can we find it?
You can find it on Spotify. And when is this free resort weekend? So yeah, it's but there's a song on it called Tipperary Song, and the way that Stephen Sharp wrote it was just like really kind of fumbly guitar part, and it was cool because like it's a really great song with a lot of energy, but I wanted to take what he had done and basically strip it down and make it like a riff, like a good riff.
That's a solid idea.
It's one of the best things I've ever written. It incorporates string skipping and chicken picking, and I'm really, really happy with how it's turned out. So I'm like, that's my goal now, kind of try and beat that, take other stuff that he's done and basically write a riff and kind of essentially take his song and kind of put my own stamp on it.
Yeah.
Which I think is one thing that I've been working on. What you been listening to?
Okay, so again, our reference to our mutual friend Matthew. He and I are going to go see Periphery and the Contortionist in London.
Cool.
When you hear this, dear listener, it will be that following Saturday. So super excited to see that. So I've been kind of going through some of their back catalog and just listening to a lot of it, honestly.
Yeah, man.
And so I'm
warming up your ears.
Yeah, exactly. And I have to admit, so obviously, like, Scarlet's one of my favorite tunes of theirs, and I think that's probably, that's kind of a lame thing to say, but it honestly is. Like, that opening riff is just super cool.
Cool, I gotta check that out.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's been kind of one of the big things. There's a lot of material there to digest. So
yeah,
we'll see how it goes. Anyway,
genting away,
gentlemen.
Perfect, gentleman. Wyclef Jean, 1997. I think. I don't know. Great song. Probably more like 2000. Yeah, just speaking of, for me, it's kind of the same. I just discovered that the National are going to be playing Ireland. They're doing 2 dates in Dublin and 1 date in Cork.
I did not know that.
Yeah, that was announced
Great
very recently. So I'm kind of working my way through their back catalogue. Great band. 2 guitar players, twin brothers.
Yeah.
Both. Just going back to Delay, their use of effects is just so big. Like, they have you've seen them playing acoustically, and they can, it's really nice chord progressions or whatever, but when they do it live, it's all like through kind of stacks of amps and big, like a different guitar for every song. And
but it's a great sound. It's massive. It's
so
fantastic.
good. It doesn't sound like a guitar.
Yeah.
Most of the time. And yeah, so basically kind of going through, they don't solo or they don't write riffs. It's basically kind of filling out the space.
Right. And I was just going to say, you want to talk about filling out the space. Like,
absolutely.
That really is a classic example. That's great.
Yeah. They've got such a great frontman and a great drummer. One of my favorite drummers, and they just work with what's going on. And it's amazing. I'd love to hear their writing process, because it's all guitar wise, because it's just, do they start with the chords or whatever? It's just such a beautiful way to do it. So yeah, they have a new album out in October, I think, and then they're playing Ireland, they're playing Ireland in September. So we're going to try and make one of them. They're playing Cork Opera House actually in September. So
wow,
yeah,
it's kind of a small gig.
Yeah, well,
they were at Red Rocks.
Yeah, well, one of the brothers, Aaron Desner, he organises a festival in Cork every 2 years or
I
so
didn't know that.
called Songs from Safe Harbour.
Oh.
So, yeah, that's he loves Cork. So they're going to play here as part of that, which is what everybody was hoping they would do like 2 years ago. Me, but yeah, so National, great band.
Yeah,
great
absolutely.
Band. Cool. I think that's what we've got time for.
I think that's about it.
Do you want to say the catchphrase?
The catchphrase is, stay sharp, my friends.
Stay sharp.